Chapter 6382. Charlie nodded and said, "The gap is very large. And this electricity consumption is not just as simple as the daily electricity consumption of these thousands of people. I have been to the copper mine in Cyprus, where thousands of people live in underground bunkers. The scale of the underground bunker is very large. It has to carry all the daily needs of thousands of people, even including the training of the dead men. It is almost an underground city. Moreover, such a huge bunker requires 24-hour ventilation and 24-hour drainage of groundwater, in order to confuse their judgment of time. The light there is as bright as day 24 hours a day. In addition, the bases of the warriors' den's dead men are not concentration camps, but homes where these dead men live and reproduce. Moreover, although the warriors' den uses special poisons and antidotes to control the dead men and uses their families as threats, in order to make them want to live, they will provide them and their families with a relatively good living environment. Therefore, the temperature and humidity of the underground bunkers will also be precisely controlled, and the power consumption will be very high." Duncan nodded and asked the AI, "How do you think the target can make up for such a large power gap by itself? Photovoltaic? Wind energy? Or other channels?" AI replied, "Based on the special situation of the target, I think oil-based power generation should be the best choice for the other party. Photovoltaic and wind power are too conspicuous and not stable enough. Coal-based power generation requires a lot of coal, which is easy to be exposed during transportation. Only oil can be directly obtained on the spot and is inexhaustible. Although the overall cost-effectiveness of oil-based power generation is extremely low. For any of the 7 companies, it is irrelevant to directly take a very small part of the mined oil for power generation." At this point, AI said, "Considering that you said before that concealing production is an unwise mistake, I want to clarify my point of view. Through the analysis of relevant cases of oil companies, I think that concealing production itself is not a problem. The real problem lies in how to deal with the concealed production. Smuggling the concealed production to obtain greater benefits is the real risk point of concealing the production. If the concealed production has never left the oil field and has not been traded, but is quietly converted into electricity and consumed internally, this behavior is simply impossible for the outside world to verify. The law enforcement agency's determination of oil smuggling is based on the fact that oil fields transport oil through abnormal channels in exchange for profits. However, for oil fields with a daily output of tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of barrels, intercepting 0.5% of the daily production capacity before transporting it through pipelines is enough to make up for the power gap. So, considering the existing factors, I think this should be the best solution, which can not only make up for the power gap, but also make all the apparent data look normal." Duncan couldn't help but exclaim when he heard this. "It's well reasoned and convincing. So, if you were asked to determine the target based on your judgment and the data from Skyline?" AA quickly replied, "Through analyzing the data from the Skyline, I think Can't-Sale Petroleum is the most suspicious. There is a solid roof building covering an area of about 2,300 square meters in the north-central area of their oil field. This building did not exist in the data from 15 years ago, and construction began 13 years ago." AI displayed several pictures on the screen. The center of the first picture was still an open-air area with scattered parking vehicles and equipment. In the second picture, the site had laid a foundation and started to build walls. At the same time, a dug ditch could be seen extending from the inside of the foundation to the nearest oil drilling rig. AI went on to introduce, from the second picture, we can see that there is a pipeline project under construction. The oil pipeline is connected to the nearest oil drilling machine. I guess it should be an oil pipeline. All oil pipelines in the oil field are exposed, and only this section of the oil pipeline is buried underground. It can be seen that the other party does not want this section of the pipeline to be exposed. Therefore, the interior of this building should be an oil generator set. The largest volume of it should be a gas turbine. Duncan said, if we simply rely on an oil pipeline to determine that there must be oil power generation equipment inside, it seems a little insufficient. AI said, I expected you to say that, so I also found out that the Nigerian Electricity Holdings Limited issued an announcement 13 years ago. Due to the power shortage in Lagos and surrounding areas at that time, the company decided to implement power restrictions on enterprises in Lagos with serious power waste. Among the list of power-restricted enterprises, there is KANSAIL Petroleum. The announcement said that the reason for the power cuts on KANSAIL was that KANSAIL Petroleum had outdated equipment and its unit power consumption exceeded that of its peers. The announcement was released 2 months earlier than the start of construction of the building. According to my analysis, KANSAIL Petroleum had just been hit by power cuts, and construction of the building started immediately. Since then, KANSAIL Petroleum has never suffered similar penalties again. Therefore, this building must be a small oil power plant.